Hello everyone, this is Kyle Welch with RCR Wireless News. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, Impact of Mobile Advanced Voice on Operators Deployment and Revenues, presented by EXFO. Our presenter today is Nandan Naik, Product Line Manager at EXFO Service Assurance. At this time, I'd like to pass the presentation over to Nandan.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. I'll get started with a few what we have on the agenda here for today's webinar. We'll start with a market overview for the advanced voice session with the motivation and challenges, what we see in the market space today relating to advanced voice offerings from the operator space as well as from a customer's point of view. Recommended workflow mapping for normalizing advanced voice solutions as operators and customers tend to use more and more of the advanced voice in the day-to-day space. We conclude with EXFO's offering in the test and measurement space for advanced voice solutions for voice over LTE, voice over Wi-Fi, and traditional circuit switch technologies. And we briefly summarize at the end of the webinar. Right. With that, we'll start with the market overview for where we see the trends or the happening trends in the advanced voice space. Before I start with this, I have a poll question in front of you for all the experts on the webinar to briefly respond to. Do you expect voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi to be commercially successful as traditional circuit switch voice was by within the next 3 years, by 2018? Your choices: yes, no, maybe, or unsure. Please go ahead and submit your poll question. Right, as we've seen, most of the respondents have answered in a positive for this poll question, which is as expected from our side as well. Traditional industry research in this particular space from a variety of organizations are showing a very similar feedback. So just as from a market trends point of view, by 2019, we expect about 2.5 billion LTE users as from an industry research standpoint. At the same time, the growth of voice over LTE, moving away users from traditional circuit switch voice technologies, is going to grow towards 500 million users and $9.9 billion in voice over LTE revenues by the same time frame. As of today, there are about 21 commercial operators and 80+ operators who are already investing in voice over LTE across 42 countries. Right. The revenues are very similar from an over-the-top application standpoint as well, which means free voice applications such as Skype, WhatsApp, Line, WeChat, etc., where almost $17 billion in revenues are being generated from the over-the-top applications, which was traditionally zero until a few years ago, if you remember. Now, with that, the voice over LTE revenues itself, which are fairly low in terms of acceptance, growing towards the $650 billion, which was what is expected out of mobile voice revenues by the end of this year. The key takeaway from this slide is that the over-the-top voice or over-the-top applications which provide free voice using radio technologies or Wi-Fi access points are all relatively going to saturate by the end of 2019 for industry research, and the growing subscribers would be able to use the same time during the same timeline voice over LTE as well as voice over Wi-Fi as adapting technologies. Right. Now, from a difference between the voice over Wi-Fi, which is also a growing trend that we see in the industry today, for industry research, we see that voice over Wi-Fi and voice over LTE are traditionally going to share the annual number of minutes that are going to be looked at from various industry research. Here is just a trend that expects that the voice over Wi-Fi minutes are going to exceed the number of minutes used on voice over LTE. And some of the key reasons why people are going to switch to voice over Wi-Fi is highlighted on this slide, again from industry research. If you look at the 4 different regions that across the globe, the 3 top reasons why people want to use voice over Wi-Fi are highlighted here. To have the best connection available, to use or to avoid using minutes from their cellular plan, and to increase the coverage in the poor or no signal cellular coverage areas. And you can see that between the developed countries, the developing economies, the answers tend to shift between one of these 3 cases. Now, what is the motivation for advanced voice? By advanced voice, we mean voice over LTE or voice over Wi-Fi for an industry standpoint. The first and foremost use case or reason is the usage or the reuse of the frequency spectrum, as well as providing higher data rates at the same time to the end users. From a shorter call setup time to a low voice bandwidth that is possible with LTE as compared to 3G or 2G technologies, the simultaneous voice and data capabilities, which are both possible with voice over LTE being available for the LTE technologies, and the reuse of the frequencies, or refarming as we call it, from existing 2G or 3G spectrums to be able to reuse it for LTE. And this is true especially for the developing economies, where a lot of frequency bands that are possible to use in LTE are still not made available for general use. The second real use or motivation for voice over LTE and Wi-Fi is really related to the voice quality performance. Because of the availability of the AMR or adaptive multi-rate wideband codecs, which provide the best audio quality right now, this time of the, for voice over LTE as well as for voice over Wi-Fi, the ability to have noise suppression and echo cancellation built in to the existing AMR wideband codecs, as well as the software to provide the voice over pure voice quality. And last but not the least is the battery life savings, which is possible due to optimized signaling as well as discontinuous reception, all supported by LTE technologies. The third real motivation is the common infrastructure for voice, video, and data. Now, this comes from the common EPC core, which can be made with a simple software upgrade towards voice to adapt to voice over Wi-Fi as well as voice over LTE. In the context of the mobile devices, simple RF front-end functionalities as compared to the bulky legacy technologies as well as hosting the LTE front-end. Seamless handovers, or SRVCC as we call it, single radio voice call continuity between LTE and the legacy technologies are all possible. And in terms of Wi-Fi itself, how and why voice over Wi-Fi can be a pertinent factor for strong motivation towards voice over Wi-Fi usage is to increase the coverage and performance indoors. With existing Wi-Fi access points itself, you can support voice over Wi-Fi calling and common IMS core relating to the voice over LTE as well. The seamless transition between LTE and Wi-Fi is always possible, but it is still in the works at this point in time, which means that there is a motivation to move it and make the seamless handovers possible, and thereby being able to demotivate the over-the-top apps usage for voice calling in both indoors as well as outdoors. Now, these are all the motivation factors, but the customer complaints for early adopters of Wi-Fi as well as Wi-Fi calling as well as voice over LTE will still abound, and this is going to be the norm for the next few years, where some of the key reasons why we think customer complaints are going to rise include LTE signaling and audio quality issues to support voice over LTE as well as voice over Wi-Fi, pertaining to call setup times and call drops purely. And from an audio point, the poor audio quality can be annoying, often leads to call hangups, and this in itself, in turn, is one of the prime customer complaints that we see and hear over and over again. The mobility and roaming issues are still tricky when it comes to voice over LTE. In terms of intra and inter LTE mobility issues, which can lead to call reestablishments or call drops, the device and the RAN issues also abound during SRVCC handovers at this point in time, leading to a lot of call drops. And a lot of operators, or a majority of operators, don't have roaming agreements between each other when it comes to voice over LTE calling. So that itself is another key reason for customer complaints, as we have heard from our customers. At this point in time, Wi-Fi is freely available for voice, but there are some issues even there. One of them is the access protocols. As we see, there are a multitude of protocols that are used to provide authentication for Wi-Fi users or Wi-Fi calling users. And the mobility aspect of Wi-Fi only is practically unavailable today. So if you had a voice over Wi-Fi call and you had to transition to legacy technologies or voice over LTE, the handover or the mobility aspects associated with it is still in the works. Now, with this, the operator business challenges are another key area that we wanted to emphasize on. Despite all these motivations and the customer complaints from the last slides that we highlight, the operator business challenges are still higher in order to push ahead, in order to deploy voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi for their end users. And some of the reasons that we see pertinent to today's industry are highlighted here. As we had seen in the market research side, the overall voice revenues for 2015 amounts to about $650 billion. And out of which, about $17 to $18 billion is being consumed or encroached upon by the over-the-top application usage. And only in the next few years, we will see growing revenues in terms of voice over LTE deployments. Now, if you are a traditional voice player, such as circuit switch technologies for 3G and 2G calls, the usage of these over-the-top applications is slowly encroaching into your voice revenues. As from an operator standpoint, you want to traditionally protect that space, and hence any means available to push the over-the-top usage would be highly welcome. Now, SRVCC glitches degrade obviously the voice quality, and the call drops are pertinent in this particular case. But this is again a key concern for over-the-top adoption as well as Wi-Fi calling. So operators would like to have an accelerated path towards offering their own Wi-Fi calling or voice over Wi-Fi abilities. Now, similar to 3G and 2G technologies for in-building and indoors, there is no respite for LTE as well, because as soon as you move indoors and for in-buildings, the LTE coverage is very much alike what was seen from 3G and 2G technologies. So with that, as well as the performance and the tariff that is associated with radio access technologies, such as LTE, 3G, and 2G, over-the-top free applications become a norm while people are indoors, right? And from a VoLTE roaming standpoint, which is still a challenge between majority of operators across the countries, Wi-Fi is free, and it is freely available across. So a mix and match of voice over Wi-Fi and voice over LTE is the traditional name of the game as we are going to see it in the next few years. So with that, all the motivation that we have, as well as our challenges that we face from the growing deployments, it is critical to get voice over LTE and Wi-Fi deployments for Wi-Fi calling right the very first time. Now, how are we going to be able to accomplish that? That's where we are coming on with a typical deployment lifecycle model, where you have the traditional phases that every operator or service provider goes through in terms of network rollout, friendly trials, commercial deployments, and network optimizations. Now, this is given from the fact that lab simulations and lab testing is complete, and that the operators want to deploy, or service providers want to deploy commercially the services that have been tested. Typical aspects associated with each of the 4 phases highlighted here are indicated in the individual corners. such as for network rollout phases, typical activities that operators and service providers would like to accomplish in terms of advanced voice calling include the SIP signaling validations, the RRC, the circuit switch fallback validations, the Wi-Fi authentication validations for voice over Wi-Fi, seamless handovers between Wi-Fi and voice over LTE, audio and mobility validations as well, and the failure analysis and resolution. Similarly, for beta-friendly trials, we expect end users to be available as a part of the trial phase, where you have hand-selected or selected beta trial users from a lot or from a mix of people in a particular region, and you would want data to be available from those users to be available for meaningful representation of the services. Similarly, for commercial deployments, we would expect the user experience monitoring, service performance monitoring, and trouble ticket validations to be the key aspect. From a network optimization standpoint, the industry norm is towards competitive benchmarking, performance monitoring, and capacity monitoring. So this is a typical workflow mechanism from a network deployment lifecycle, be it for a particular technology or be it for a particular service, such as voice over LTE or voice over Wi-Fi. Now, what we have done is we've taken the similar approach, and we recommend from EXFO a workflow for the same advanced voice technologies, mapping to the exact 4 different phases. And this is how we feel operators and service providers can accelerate the voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi deployments. During network rollout phase, we recommend that there be automated mobile validations for all technologies involved, whether it is LTE Advanced, the Wi-Fi, LTE, 3G, 2G, and testing all possible features that make the voice over LTE calls and voice over Wi-Fi calls a success. Automated analysis and reports should be available within minutes so that the people who are rolling out the networks have the ability to make almost real-time decisions. The mobility analysis as well as audio quality analysis using VoLTE mechanism, and the integration with the existing network rollout solutions, which have been building into the existing framework of operators and service providers network rollout tools and solutions. During beta-friendly trials, we expect we recommend that there be real-time voice analytics built in from the handful of users, whether it is thousands of users, whether it is tens of thousands of users or hundreds of thousands of users that operators and service providers choose to use or choose to deploy early services on. The data from all of those users should be automatically available at a centralized, towards a centralized server. That way, analytics can be built on top of that to be able to provide device-level analytics, service-level analytics, and technology-related analytics. Still being very early from network rollout phases during this case, automated problem isolation and troubleshooting is a key aspect during beta-friendly trials. And the same rollout tools that were used to validate the new technologies or new services can also be reused during the beta-friendly trials phases. With commercial deployments, the obvious recommendation is towards continuous voice call monitoring. In this particular case, there are active solutions and there are passive solutions or passive monitoring solutions which help commercially look at voice call services. Network segmentation with probes or verifiers, as we call it in the active industry, can also be used and makes very meaningful impact in terms of network segmentation, which is trying to understand how good the services have been rolled out across your voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi deployments, all the way from the mobile devices pertaining to each of the segments of the network RAN elements, such as the EPC, IMS core, etc. Automated call failures and trend analysis are pertinent to the commercial deployment phases, and the ability to upload data into existing workflow solutions for doing commercial deployments are also recommended. In terms of network optimization phase, which is really a key aspect towards and acts as a feedback mechanism to all the other three phases, whether you're trying to optimize the new technology or you're trying to optimize a new service, such as voice over LTE or voice over Wi-Fi, the network optimization phase basically acts as a continuous feedback mechanism. And during this optimization phases, the traditional equipment and test and measurement equipments are pertaining towards benchmarking and performance monitoring for both advanced voice solutions, whether it is voice over Wi-Fi or voice over LTE. And the ability to obtain automated analysis and reports within minutes is the key towards a successful network optimization case, wherein the amount of time that is spent to optimize networks can be as long as possible and as arduous as possible, especially with voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi deployments. If traditional circuit switch calls are any way to obtain analysis from the past times, it is going to be a long haul before voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi calls are going to normalize in the context of the advanced voice offerings. The ability to obtain or update data from third-party sources into the existing RAN optimization tools that are abound out there across operator networks. These are very pertinent to today's day and age, and data being available to these third-party solutions are equally pertinent. Right? So how do these basically roll out from the different phases that we looked at in the past few slides to how these can be looked at from a typical rollout and optimization phases, going into slightly more details about the technology and the services associated with voice over Wi-Fi and voice over LTE. Right from the call start, during the call, and towards the call end, we can obtain metrics across the length and breadth of the wireless access technology, such as LTE in this particular case for voice over LTE, registration statistics, RRC connection statistics, the bearer information, configuration, and the SIP parameters can all be obtained from the mobile devices that are providing voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi services. During the call, Polka MOS and delay measurements, LTE handovers, and if circuit switch fallback mechanisms are built in place as well as SRCCC handovers, LTE L1, RLC, bearer throughput, all these measurements, AMR codec statistics, and packet delay measurements, as well as LTE to Wi-Fi handovers, which pertain to user experience, are all captured for analysis, for automated analysis. Towards the call end, understanding and analyzing the call statistics for dropped, block calls, successful statistics across the majority of calling, not just during network rollout cases, but also during optimization cases from a call setup and call success and failures metric standpoint. Some of the key aspects of rollout and optimization phases are enabled on the mobile devices by solutions which can obtain and analyze data in real time for the pertaining technologies. Here is an example of a 4G LTE or a voice over LTE call, which is as seen on the mobile device, including the SIP signaling messages, the RRC messages, and the call quality, call statistics measurements. These are all decoded right from the chipset level and provided via an application that can be obtained and provide visualization in real time for the call success and the call failure cases, as well as the different aspects of voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi calling. Now, further into the rollout and optimization phases is the ability for providing a maps-based view, whether it is Google Maps or indoor floor plan maps, to provide how good the measurements have been for the voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi calling. All of this within a few minutes of completing the calls testing is possible, and we provide the ability to visualize the same from a multitude of choices, whether it is using open source tools or open solutions such as Google Earth, or built-in reports which can be visualized in real time via Microsoft Excel spreadsheets that have the maps as well as the key indications of the success and the failure cases, all highlighted for usage. Towards the optimization cases, again, the coverage, the quality of experience KPIs, and the radio KPIs, and the impact of them on traditional voice and data services can also be monitored. And a key highlight over here is the ability to look at the coverage indoors as well as the outdoor setups for both the voice over Wi-Fi and voice over LTE technologies. So within 5 minutes, the most important part of your work is done if you had an automated test and measurement and analysis setup built in. Now, here is an example report of a VoLTE scorecard that we obtain from every time a voice over LTE call is made. Now, this includes a long duration call, short duration call, or a brief call to just indicate whether the whether the voice over LTE calls and the audio quality is successful in real time or not. From the KPI scoring card that you have in front of your screen, you see the AI/RAM statistics, that is the accessibility, retainability, availability, mobility stats that are industry standard, and also the audio quality measurements, all built in for voice over LTE metrics. Now, during beta and commercial phases, the ability to use mobile devices out there from customers, these are your Android, iPhone devices, which are capable of supporting voice over LTE, they can all be installed with a standard application, which takes less than a couple of minutes to install and available from for traditional downloads, just like Google Play Store, etc. And the ability to have those installed and automatically calling during the context of voice, whether it is voice over Wi-Fi, voice over LTE, or legacy circuit switched calls, all of them are made possible by a standard solution, which can actually help in terms of the call automation testing, the call quality testing, as well as the complete analysis at the call end, towards the call end. Here we talk about the ability to use friendly users across the length and breadth of the industry space, where hundreds and thousands of users become data points for operators. Now, as they go through beta and commercial trial phases, the idea is to be able to collect as much data as possible from all the end user devices. And the data collected from all these end user devices are automatically updated using our dashboard analytics engine, which is built in with the maps as well as the service quality widgets, which get updated in real time as the call progresses between users. The location, the performance, and the call drops, etc., are all the key elements that are captured for the commercial and beta trial phases with such a mechanism. The real use case built into this case is the ability to test or being able to measure voice call setup performance, coverage, and mobility performance for between mobile to mobile devices. So two mobile devices which are capable of supporting voice over LTE or voice over Wi-Fi calling can be called automatically for particular duration of time, as well as for particular instances at a frequency that is preset by the end user or by the system administrator. Now, as usual, for troubleshooting purposes, the signaling, mobility, audio, and failure cases can all be analyzed in real time as well. The second use case is really built towards fixed probes or the fixed landlines, as we call it, PSTN, where traditional Wi-Fi or voice over LTE calling can be automated towards specific numbers or specific MSISDN numbers. And these calls can also be automated completely, and independently they keep calling each other, wherein data is made available from the mobile devices, including the location and the call setup performance for voice over LTE calling. Now, encompassing with these two use cases, what we are trying to highlight is the ability to test in a completely automated manner calls towards other users, other mobile users, or call towards fixed landline cases. With the usage of fixed probes in the networks, such as what we highlight here with BV3100 or BV110s, we have the ability to segment or dissect the network traffic for voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi calling. Thereby, you get a segmented view of the traditional network traffic, all the way from the mobile devices to the EPC RAN elements and all the way into the core. With the dashboards that is built on top of the data that is collected in real time, we can provide device level metrics such as what operating system, what specific models of devices are being used, and how good is their performance as compared to their peers or legacy devices, as well as the ability to understand how good the call performance is, call setup performance is during voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi calling, and also the usage pattern from a commercial deployment standpoint, where end users are going about doing their day-to-day activities, and while they are interacting with their mobile devices, we can capture data pointers, which can be used to highlight the specific points of location and their cell sites, which are being used to provide the services, thereby obtaining a full-rounded view of the quality of the calls, setups, the mobility, and the device performance across different operating systems. Okay. Now, with that, all this data, we also have the ability to dissect it and streamline it for different users or different user groups. What we mean by that is the ability to provide a view which is pertinent to the relevant user group, such as a CXO level, engineering level, or a managerial or a director level views, which become pertinent to their specific cases on a day-to-day workflow basis. Now, in terms of the service experience management, which we call as the overall analytics for service experiences, built for across the Wi-Fi as well as the voice over LTE technologies, the quality of service for voice over LTE calls is what we consider as a function of the call setup times, that is the CST, and the mobility as well as the MOS averages. And an overall service experience management index can be built using these specific functions that are getting tested or deployed services that are getting tested on a 24/7 basis. Now, here we have a poll question again at this point in time, which is really related to the voice over Wi-Fi and voice over VoLTE deployments, which is taken from the last few slides. And what we trying to understand from your point of view as experts on the webinar is, with which voice over Wi-Fi and voice over LTE deployment phases do you think the operators will face the most challenges as they continue to roll out during the next few years? Thank you all. As the polls, if you can actually show the polls, Kyle, that would be useful here. As we see, most of the users have seen commercial deployment phase as being one of the challenging cases in terms of operators deploying voice over LTE solutions, and which is exactly what we had anticipated as well. And in order to be able to provide some key aspects towards commercial deployments of voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi, what we propose here is our segue into the next solution, or the segue into the mobile advanced voice solutions from EXFO. And here, the overall idea is to be able to provide end-to-end segmentation from the mobile devices, which become a part of the data source, as well as our fixed probe verifiers, what we call as EXFO verifiers. These verifiers can be placed at strategic points in the network, be it across the eNodeBs, across the EPC, IMS cores, etc., all the way into the internet. But the ability to obtain data from all these sources, different sources, in real time, pertaining to individual calls or pertaining to the services deployed, that way data can be accumulated across our analytics engine to provide a high-level view from an analytics standpoint to see a cross-section view of the user experience across all the way from the mobile devices towards the IMS core, thereby being able to segment the different segments of RF, the paths of the traversing paths of the voice packets across the cross segments of the RAN network elements, and also the monitoring of the specific tunnels that exist between the RAN network elements. But the overall goal is to be able to provide the user data experience or the customer experience as the front end towards qualifying the voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi deployments. Now, the portfolio for the advanced voice solutions from EXFO is highly analytics driven, such as it is completely automated to test and measure data from the voice calls, from the voice calling, as well as the ability to measure them and analyze the data obtained from the different sources, thereby providing the data into a highly sophisticated analytics engine and being able to provide them via dashboards for the real-time views. In the context of mobile device solutions, what we provide is are two specific solutions. One is called the EXFO Mobile Agent, and the second one is the EXFO Mobile Explorer. With the Mobile Agent and the Mobile Explorer, there are two different use cases and two different segments of the network traffic that become the core focus. Now, in terms of Mobile Agent, it is more of a mobile service experience management solution, which is predominantly meant for your beta friendly trials and commercial trial phases. The Mobile Explorer is more of a network rollout and a network optimization solution, predominantly meant for analyzing and shooting issues. From a service experience management standpoint, there are certain salient features which are built into the Mobile Agent, such as 24/7 automated deployments, continuous test and monitoring of voice and data services, as well as the real-time update of analytics or real-time view of the analytics towards customer experience trends and failures as well. The ability to use third-party probes or EXFO probes in the context of the RAN network elements to be able to provide segmented traffic analysis is completely possible with the availability of the Mobile Agent. And similar to the voice calling abilities or advanced voice calling abilities, such as voice over LTE or voice over Wi-Fi, as well as traditional circuit switch calling, we intend to use the same template or the same framework from the Mobile Agent for any new services that are going to be pertinent in the future, whether it is RCS, EMBMS, video over LTE, etc. As these services become more and more pertinent towards commercial cases, we are there to test and help assure the network services. With the Mobile Explorer, the ability to have the application built into your devices, such as bring your own devices for any macro, small cells, and walk test analysis, the ability to track and test and monitor, as well as analyze failures during your LTE advanced deployments with automated PCI locking, analysis, and a replay tool. Automated reports for MOS or audio quality, handovers, failures, including maps, are all built in to the automated framework, and simultaneous testing is built into the framework as well. Now, similar to the Mobile Agent, the ability to use the same framework for any of your new deployments, whether it is carrier aggregation, RCS, EMBMS, video over LTE, etc., all are built into the Mobile Explorer for troubleshooting and analysis purposes. Now, with that, I would like to quickly conclude on the last differentiator from our EXFO solution standpoint. Now, what differentiates EXFO solutions in the market is our ability to have zero-touch provisioning, including validation and monitoring, using a comprehensive setup of servers and mobile agent applications, be it the mobile agent, the mobile explorer, or fixed probes in the network, to be able to provide a continuously test and monitor data and obtain analysis in real time. With that, we help improve the mean time to repair by analyzing data obtained from the sources, the data sources such as mobile devices or our fixed probes, helping fix issues in real time as possible. The ability to segment and analyze data traffic across the core section, all the way from the mobile devices to the IMS core, for seamlessly monitoring the voice over Wi-Fi and voice over LTE coverage, is possible because of our segmentation analysis. And at the same time, we are also careful and cautious to not drain the battery usage on the mobile devices due to all these frequent tests that are scheduled and run automatically. That's why thereby provide the ability to schedule and run tests at frequencies that are preset by the operators. And even with extremely frequent tests, as frequent as every 5 minutes, we see a low battery usage on the mobile devices, less than 20% drain as compared to traditional usage with our EXFO mobile device applications. At the last but not the least is the ability to accurately report location data for both indoors and outdoors, thereby providing the true customer experience from the end usage standpoint, whether it is for voice over Wi-Fi or voice over LTE deployments. And that way, you have the visibility for where and when the actual network operators have to go and increase their coverage, capacity, or performance in order to provide, or in order to assure good quality services for voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi deployments. Now, with that, our offering, that is EXFO's offering in this advanced voice assurance space, is related to fast and cost-effective advanced voice service deployments and monitoring solutions. We help increase the speeding up of revenue by normalizing or helping normalize advanced voice deployment issues, which are faced by operators on a day-to-day basis as of today and continuing into the next few years, thereby increasing the operational efficiency for complete test and automation, complete test validation, using our completely automated solutions. Now, at EXFO, we have a comprehensive active and passive advanced voice solution capabilities built in to our traditional framework, supported by our analytics platform. Now, these include, obviously, the handsets, which is the mobile device handsets, which are commercially available on the shelf. There could be fixed probes, which we call as EXFO verifiers. There are passive analyzers, what we call as the Hawk Pro analyzers, Travel Hawk or the NetHawk or the Power Hawk Pro. And analytics, which are real-time dashboards taking data from not just EXFO devices alone, but they could be built into obtain data from third-party sources as well to help improve the operational efficiency of your existing network technologies and topologies. With that, we truly want to help optimize our customers, the end users, voice quality of experience with the advanced voice assurance from EXFO Solutions. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate you taking time to sit through this webinar. I'll be more than happy to take any other questions that the audience might have. Kyle?
Yeah, thanks, Nandan. That was a great presentation. We've had a few questions come in, and if anyone has any other questions, please submit them via the control panel under the questions dropdown. So the first question we had, does EXFO offer test and measurement solutions for both active and passive voice monitoring?
Yes, absolutely. EXFO has test and measurement solutions built for both active and passive monitoring solutions, or for both voice and data technologies, whether it is voice over LTE, voice over Wi-Fi, or traditional data test and measurement solutions.
Great. Next question we had is, both MA and MX run inside the UE?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
They both can run simultaneously on the same UE as well, and they can be separated out for different segments, essentially trying to understand if you're trying to look for, depending on the use case, I mean, what you're trying to basically use it for, whether you're trying to use it for a service experience management or you're trying to use it for a RAN optimization space. The same mobile device can support both the mobile agent and the Explorer.
Great. Next question. Do the mobile devices have to be modified in order to obtain key voice call quality metrics?
No, that's a great question. This depends on the use case that you're trying to solve. Now, as we look through the different slides during the webinar, if you're looking at, depending on the use case for beta rollouts or commercial trial phases, the applications don't have to be modified in any way, shape, or form. These are just over-the-top applications. The mobile agent is an over-the-top application that can be directly installed on the mobile devices. The Mobile Explorer, on the other hand, requires a certain amount of modification in order to provide all the details that we capture and help provide for analysis, troubleshooting, and problem isolation cases.
Great. Another question we had come in, does POLQA differentiate between uplink and downlink voice quality?
So right now, we do not have a true mechanism for differentiating between uplink and downlink in the context of the mobile agent. But with the Mobile Explorer solution, yes, we can help with a true differentiation on the uplink and downlink directions.
Okay. Next question. Is there a possibility to test video call quality?
Yes, we are building absolutely a video call quality measuring, test and measure, completely automated test and measuring abilities into the Mobile Explorer and the mobile agent solutions. Now, at this point in time, we haven't seen commercially available voice over video or LTE networks to be able to differentiate or help understand how these our offerings are applicable to the commercial space. But our test and measurement solutions are built in to obtain and provide video or LTE coverage as well.
Okay. Next question we had come in. Does EXFO have a solution to measure end-to-end KPIs that include SIP performance?
Absolutely. Yes, we do have more than one test and measurement solution, depending on the use case that the question is asked for. We can help identify the exact test and measurement solution that can provide the SIP end-to-end performance.
It looks like we have just a couple more questions, and they're somewhat related. So first one, what kinds of probes does EXFO provide to test and measure advanced voice calls?
That's a great question. So at EXFO, we have traditionally built solutions for real-time active monitoring and assurance of voice and data solutions, and also passive voice and data monitoring solutions. Now, in the context of probes, there are probes available for both cases, wherein you want to monitor data in real time from your handful of users or from the active probes in the network. There are what we call as EXFO verifiers probes, which are built for multi-usage basis, whether it is a few users or a few tens of users, hundreds of users, or thousands of users. It can be scaled up to any length. And the passive probes are also available to monitor the entire network traffic as pertaining to the passive data collections for voice and data.
And a follow-up question we received similar to that is, what kind of load do these probes and the delay of using them add to a given call?
Can you repeat the question, please, Kyle?
Sure.
I couldn't catch it first.
What kind of load do these probes and the delay of using them add to a given call?
These are really built into the question can be split into two parts, really. In the active case, where the test is actually that our test and measurement solutions are providing synthetic traffic to the network, which means you're either making a voice call, so which means you're adding one extra call, or you're monitoring one extra test by adding to the actual test framework or actual radio or the wireline framework from the wireless angle. In which case the load is not that high because the synthetic traffic is meant to just inject a small amount of traffic into the network, few bytes or few kilobytes of data. But in the context of passive, because these are all tapped line interfaces, the data is collected and analyzed without impacting the network performance. So the load can be as the loading of the network is minuscule in the passive probing aspect because we are tapped interfaces.
Great. Looks like we have time for one more question. So this final question, spectrum management for Wi-Fi is a challenge as it is considered an unlicensed usage of unlicensed spectrum. How can MNOs overcome this situation in terms of measuring performance and making sure they avoid interference from other devices in same frequencies?
So that's a great question. So at this point in time, we are still investigating a certain amount of variables that play into this picture, into this particular space. Because it's such a wide range of devices out there, we are constantly working with network operators in the labs as well as in the field to basically understand and triage all the cases that are coming out there and all the kind of interferences that are possible to be able to delineate them and essentially provide a key usage pattern specific to Wi-Fi alone. We do have abilities to dissect the amount of traffic that is generated specifically from Wi-Fi using our test and measurement solutions. But at the same time, we do recognize that it is a wide and varied interference heavy space built by all the other adjacent users or devices, commercial devices. So as in how we progress in the coming weeks and coming months, we do intend to isolate those commercial devices towards providing more beneficial usage just for pure Wi-Fi deployments.
All right, great. That's about all the time we have. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, Impact of Mobile Advanced Voice on Operators, Deployment, and Revenues, presented by EXFO. Again, our presenter today was Nandan Naik, Product Line Manager at EXFO Service Assurance. Thank you, Nandan.
Thank you. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.